is the Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I'm your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. I'm joined by a man who is still tilting from Thursday nights, Brandon Adam. You can follow him on Twitter at BrandonDAdam19. Brandon,
sure.
What is going on, brother?
Oh, man. You are not lying about Thursday night. I was definitely upset, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, okay. So let's get the business out of the way real quick.
Sure.
For those who are enjoying the show, please like, please subscribe, please comment. All these things help us. We support. It helps support us. We appreciate the feedback. And you know what? Like, if you like what you're listening to, rate us on your podcast app. 5 stars. Provide a few comments. It goes a long way, guys. We really appreciate it. And man, we're starting to grow our audience a little bit, Brandon. So
good.
We're doing something right because people are coming to us and they're asking, when are we going to get more Flex Network? So here we are. We're going to be here every Saturday morning, 8:30 Mountain, 10:30 Eastern. That way, you guys have an opportunity to listen at your own accord. You have an entire day and change to listen prior to the weekly kickoff game. So we're going to be here every week. It's week 2, Brandon. We got a long way to go here, but
long. Yeah.
There's been okay. Let's just talk about the single slate games. Let's talk about the Monday nighter, the Thursday nighter,
sure,
and even like last week's Thursday nighter. Like, they've all been fantastic games so far. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk at least a little bit about this New York Giants Washington football team. My first general impression, without even getting into the actual individual player analysis, is that the dysfunction that we heard about in the Giants camp in preseason, with I think the culmination of which was the dog pile on top of Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
it's clearly coming out in the games, right? I mean, that penalty, what was it? It was either a neutral zone infraction or just a general offside that gave them Washington football team the opportunity to kick a second try to win the game. It that was just a culmination of it, right? Talk to me about that, Brandon.
Oh, that, and also Galladay just blowing up on Daniel Jones on the sideline as well. If you didn't catch that, man, he was definitely hot with Daniel. But it's insane. Daniel Jones is such an enigma. He has such a he has such a good rushing floor and a rushing upside that counteracts all the mistakes he can make in a game as a quarterback. In fantasy, he's great. He's fine. Mm-hmm. We actually like it, but man, in real life, that's a frustrating deal, and he's overthrowing wide open guys. And if he can just dial that in and then continue doing what he does on the ground, he can be a very good quarterback. It's just I don't know what his deal is. He's not very confident right now, but the Giants are a hot mess for sure.
That's a really good observation. He doesn't look confident out there, but I mean, so Daniel Jones in his rookie season showed that rushing upside. I think he surprised a lot of people. I mean, the Giants got a lot of, let's call it shit, for drafting him where they drafted him 2 years ago, or 2 years ago now. And then last year he didn't quite perform. So I guess we could call this a post-type breakout. Is it official yet? I think he put up a 30-burger in fantasy for this week. So he was hanging on out in my bench, unfortunately, for the second week in a row in one of my dynasty leagues. So
I started him wherever I had him.
That was a smart play. But so I gotta say, obviously we enjoy setting our rosters every week. We enjoy tinkering in DFS every week. We enjoy obviously watching the football games every week. But you know what's a little side thing that we don't talk about enough, I don't think, Brandon? That is the art of the troll.
Oh, man.
And it's very easy to get one Brandon DAdam19 on tilt on Twitter, because all you got to do is just suggest that Antonio Gibson maybe can perform to the level that we thought he was going to perform. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I love AG. But Brandon,
dude, I know.
Can you accept the fact now that there's some risk? There's some risk with that round 2 draft capital this year.
Not yet. I think it's going to be. We're in the beginning of the season. I think we're at the beginning of this offense of what it can be, and with the quarterback change, it kind of throws another wrench into everything. Yep. So I don't know if the play calling changed strictly because AG is a little bit of a liability in the in blitz pickup. Yep. And I just don't know when he's going to get full-blown responsibility there. But we'll see. But JD McKissic and also good, another thing people got to understand is that on Tuesday nights or Thursday nights, we generally see on a short week teams not really lean heavy on their workhorse backs on those weeks. Mm-hmm. And they kind of, especially in the beginning of the season, and Antonio actually picked up a shoulder issue that he was checked out against the Chargers as well. So I don't know if he's banged up a little bit and if they're trying to pull him down. I don't know. But he looks fine. He looks efficient when he runs the ball. He looks really, explosive when he has it. He's been finding good creases. I just don't understand why Ron Rivera hasn't really unleashed him, especially when you got a quarterback like Heineke that you just don't know what you're going to get out of him. But I don't know. I'm very flabbergasted by why he hasn't gone all out with it. But we'll see. Soon enough, though. I mean, if by week 4 I don't see a change completely in the workload for AG, then I'll panic. But until then,
right? You're never not really going to start him. It's like there's a very good chance that if you're playing in a league where it's 2 running backs and say 1 or 2 flex options, you're probably going to be starting him every single week. That's the problem, right? I mean,
I have no problem starting him, but I will always start him because AG has the potential of breaking off a 40-yard run. He can do all that. And once the reason he didn't get that goal line shot that JD had is because it was in the no huddle. And it's obvious that AG is not as trusted in those blitz pickups. And I think that he's going to have to prove that he's going to do that. It's a lot like Barclay, why he
Barclay's just another one. You mentioned it.
Barclay's another guy.
The short week.
I expected all this with Barclay.
Yeah, I mean,
I expected this.
Again, you're not dropping Saquon Barkley. I mean, if somebody comes to you with a reasonable offer, I don't know, like a Chris Carson plus, maybe
I would do it.
Would you straight up for Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I would. At this point with redraft for sure. Yeah, I would do that. Chris Carson is going to have a massive workload on a high output team, and I would do that in a heartbeat. But Saquon is a kind of guy that can turn it around, and he is coming off injury. All these things, there's drama on the team. I don't know. Let's just pump the brakes. It's only been 2 weeks. Let's give it a month, and we'll find out where we're at. But with AG, I am not hesitant yet. He's a stud still. I don't care. He's going to be just fine.
Is Barkley, and I haven't even looked at the week 3 matchups yet, so let's preface by saying that. But is Barkley a guy that you would consider benching next week if we don't get any positive news about his injury and his usage? You're starting him no matter what.
I'm going to start him because he showed in this game he can run for 40 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, he can. He can do that. And sooner or later, he's going to get red zone looks on the goal line and all that stuff. So the minute he gets that look, he'll score. I feel like because Daniel Jones running around, they were calling his number a little bit more than usual.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's an interesting stat I heard this week. 11% of teams that that go 0-2 make the playoffs. That means roughly 3 to 4 teams each year that go 0-2 have the chance to make the playoffs. So this week, let's look at some of the teams that we think are playoff teams that lost last week and may have some challenging matchups this week. So the first one that jumps out at me is Baltimore. They're playing against Kansas City this week. That is absolutely not a layup. I mean, is Baltimore a team that, man, if they go 0-2, that they have the constitution to go and actually make the playoffs this year, legitimately?
I am not impressed with how Baltimore has looked. Like,
no, they look horrendous.
They look.
It's a passing game every year.
And Lamar, I don't know. He really needs to calm down and just throw the football and stay within the offense. And I just don't see it happening right now with him. I think that line isn't as good as it was, and pressure is getting there now. And now with no JK, that threat of a monster, that's a big deal. And then you don't have Bateman as well. Bateman will be back week 7, I think, around week 7, week 8.
But
so
dude,
I don't know. But honestly, who I kind of like what the Bengals are looking like. I think the Bengals are a team to watch out in that division. And I think the Bengals could even push the Steelers for number 2. And so I could totally see that. But the Browns will, be number 1. They will win that division, in my opinion. But Baltimore is in a bad spot because they're going to lose against Kansas City.
Yeah. So speaking of the Bengals, Jamar Chase 7 targets, T. Higgins 5 targets, Tyler Boyd 4 targets. Our boy, your boy, Joe Mixon 4 targets. He had 33 total touches for 150 yards and a TID. That's electric, man. You know what? Again, I was trolling to start the game.
I'm telling you.
You got tweet. Well, here's the thing. He tweaked something early. He was out. He missed some plays from an injury. Like when Joe Mixon's on the field, he's electric. Like I've never really disputed that. It's just that trust factor. And, maybe because I've been burned too many times.
This is the year. I'm holding him everywhere.
This is the year, man. I love it. You gotta double down or triple down on Joe Mixon, and you did it. And you are, at least through week 1, you're a happy man.
For sure.
A couple other teams I wanted to talk about. Cleveland this week, they're going against Houston. I would say, they put up a pretty good fight last week versus KC. I think Cleveland's a pretty good lock to beat Houston this week. A team that honestly it's because who they are. They're always going to get hyped despite the fact they really haven't done much for the last 20 years. Dallas Cowboys. They're playing the Chargers this week. That's not a guaranteed victory. That's going to be tough. One that's, I think, quite intriguing. The Buffalo Bills, man. That was a slugfest against Pittsburgh last week. They go into Miami this week with the heat. We saw what it did to the Patriots last week. It's nasty, man. Yeah.
Well, Josh Allen loves to play in Miami. Check out his numbers when he played in Miami last time. He is going to rush for a touchdown, at least 1. And he's going to put up 30 plus. Easy.
He better frickin'. He better. For what you had to pay to acquire that man in your leagues.
Yeah. Yep. He will. And I think it's going to be going to Cole Beasley is going to be a name that's going to be hot in this game. And I also think Sanders is going to be hot in this game because Gabriel Davis is nicked up. So he probably won't have his same workload as he did last week. And Xavier Howard is going to be all over Diggs. And so you can it's either if Diggs is that guy, he'll produce numbers. And I think he is that kind of guy because of just sheer volume and opportunity. He will have a good game. But Diggs on a lot of his big breakout games are when he shadowed and manned up and when he just has to beat one guy. And if he can beat Xavier Howard with his route running, there's potential for a monster game for him. It's just, we'll see how good, Xavier Howard really is. I just, I think Diggs is elite route running and I think he can get open against anybody. So I actually kind of like, as a contrarian play in DFS, Diggs is a good play and that he's going to get volume and always has that breakout potential.
Brandon, he had 14 targets last week. He only had 9 receptions for 69 yards, but he had 14 targets. Yeah, that matters. And your boy Cole Beasley, who I have deemed my boy, 13 targets.
Yeah.
8 receptions, 60 yards. And here's a stat I'm going to break out because spoiler alert, he was one of my flex plays, but let's just talk about him now because we're on topic. Cole Beasley had a 91% snap share last week. He was number 1 in the slot where he had 81.7% of his snaps in the slot. He's going to be the dump off option, right? Yep. And look, Dawson Knox, I love Dawson Knox. He's a great football player.
Garbage.
He's not really fantasy relevant, right? So we were worried a little bit about the Beasley usage because of Emmanuel Sanders. Sanders looked good, man. He really did look good. Only 8 targets, though, but those were deep targets. Those were like the high caloric ones. And oh man, there was a deep pass that was just slightly overthrown by Josh Allen. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been gone to the house. We would be talking about Emmanuel Sanders all across the social platforms this week for sure.
I love Josh Allen, and this week he always balls against Miami. I don't know what always, and I think he understands he cannot lose this game. Like he just can't.
No, well, we talked about the stats, man.
Just can't do it.
So 2 other teams that I want to talk about that we believe are legitimate playoff contenders. First team I'm going to talk about are the Packers. Look, they look dysfunctional. Again, we talked about the dysfunction in the Giants all off season. It clearly showed in Green Bay last week. This week they're playing Detroit, though. I feel like it's going to be a get-right game.
He's going to throw 5 touchdowns this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a shootout. Look, that's a sneaky DFS stack, I'd say, as well, right? I mean, we saw both Williams and Swift had similar usage last week. They both got the touchdown, and man, they're gonna have to play to catch up. So
stack Tunyon and Adams with Rodgers and run it back with Swift, and there you go.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
If you want to do a game stack, that's a game stack that people are off Tunyon a little bit because of how bad he really didn't. Honestly, I'm gonna throw that pretty much out.
Just throw it out the window.
I'm throwing it out, and I think this team is gonna bounce back in a vicious way this week. And who knows? I mean, Detroit obviously proved that they could put up numbers. I mean, they put it up on the Niners defense, and the Niners defense was supposed to be pretty good, right? And
allegedly.
I don't think so. I mean,
here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Okay. There's this mental thing, right? When you're like, as much as these guys are pros, they're playing the Detroit Lions in week 1. The first half of that game happened exactly how we thought it was going to happen. They got a big, I want to say it was at one point, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And look, like, I feel like they kind of took the pedal off the metal, right? Like they took the foot off the gas, and it kind of scared him a little bit. I really hope a smart team is going to go back and look at like, oh shit, guys, like this is still the NFL. These are still legitimate NFL players, and we could have lost that game legitimately. So they got to freaking get your shit right. And you know what, Shanahan, I don't want these murmurs that we think Brandon Ayuk is going to earn his starting position. Brandon Ayuk was the best wide receiver on the team last year. We love Deebo Samuel. The narrative was right last week for what we thought Brandon Ayuk was going to do.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Are you going back to the well with Ayuk, or are you waiting and seeing this week?
I am 100% putting him on my bench. I know he's talented. Just don't do it right now. Don't force it if you don't need to, but if you have to, I get it. But there's other players I'd rather play this week instead of Ayuk, and so let's just see. And you're exactly right. Ayuk is so talented. He has to be the guy once he's out of this doghouse, or I don't know what's going on. Kyle Shanahan is a problem. Like, he loves to mess around with people in fantasy football. And I want to apologize for last week. I suggested go in with Mozart and go all in against
right process, man.
It was the right process. It's just, shit happens. And trust me, I got hammered for it too as well. So it's what it is, but it's part of fantasy. Injuries are part of fantasy.
Our girl Jennifer is confidently playing Tunyon this week.
Yeah.
He's throwing week 1 out the window. You have to do it, man. I mean, like,
you got to.
Yeah. You can't use one game and just throw an entire last season's worth of data out the window.
Yep.
You just can't do it. So the last team I want to talk about before we move on to our flex plays is the Tennessee Titans, man. They looked like trash last week, and they're playing Seattle Seahawks this week.
I'll tell you why. Taylor Lewan is not all the way back yet. Taylor Lewan, the left tackle for the Titans, is literally the heartbeat of that team. And he got his ass whooped last week against Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks last week. Oof, and Lewan was so embarrassed by his own performance. He went out on Twitter and told everybody in the world that was on me. And I think it was because he rushed back to get back for week 1. He looks skinny. He doesn't look as heavy as he usually does. And that offense, like I told you, they did not want to run Henry super hard early in the season this year. And I think they were going that way, but they couldn't pass set and defend against that front 7 of the Cardinals. And now you got Seattle. It's going to be another issue this week because Carlos Dunlap is no joke, and he will get pressure on Tannehill. But I'm hoping this is a prideful team, a prideful group, and a prideful coach. And Vrabel is the kind of guy that's going to get all into his team about this. And this is exactly what he loves because, the Titans, they have players that have some extracurricular activities with podcasts and with all these things. And, I think this is the kind of thing that he can use. That last week was a performance that he can use to really motivate his team. And they're going to have to establish Henry this week. And I think they're going to have to, even if it's 25-80 and a 1 touchdown, they got to do it. And if it looks kind of ugly, because right now that line is not confident in the pass set. So, and once they get that run game going, there will be more time off play action to be able to throw the ball to AJ Brown and Julio Jones, and they'll be able to throw deeper like they wanted to. But honestly, though, if you look back at the Cards game, AJ Brown dropped a touchdown in the end zone, and so did Julio. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you got to watch the games. The box score doesn't always tell the whole story, but look, all we care about is results. That's just the fickle world of fantasy football, Do you buy into like the narratives of like, having to travel across country? It's more so for the Western teams traveling east, right? Because they get all messed up with their sleep. The Eastern teams going west. It's not really as much of a play, but it's hard to win in Seattle, man.
It is, especially with the fans coming back. First game with post-COVID and all that, it's going to be wild. Yeah, I actually think that's going to be. I really like that game.
That's going to be a fun game to watch.
And I'm all in with Russell to DK in this game. I think DK is going to have one of his biggest games of the year, and it's going to be this week. It's going to be great. And if you look at what Hopkins did last week, out of the same position that DK runs. You're going to see why. And DK is going to have
the difference. Okay, listen. So the difference is Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. The difference between DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett last week was they both had 4 targets. They both had 4 receptions. Lockett happened to have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, whereas DK Metcalf only had 60 and 1. The touchdown kind of saved his day.
Yep.
It was a massive day. Tyler Lockett, man. He is the ageless wonder that is Tyler Lockett. My goodness.
When he's able to play one-on-one against people just underestimate him. And he gets everybody deep. He will get everybody deep. And he's healthy right now. This is early in the season. This is when you want to play him. And
absolutely.
As soon as he's nicked up, then that's when the problems start happening, and we'll see. But this week is going to be a major shootout in Seattle.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. So just last point in that game, it is one of the highest games on the slate this week. I mean, I think it's just
my favorite.
The Chargers-Dallas game is a little bit higher, but it's 54 points. Tennessee is actually 6.5 favorite, 6.5 point favorite, which is that's a pretty massive lead.
Tennessee?
Oh, excuse me. Seattle is.
I was going to be like, no way.
Yeah, Seattle's a 6.5 point favorite over Tennessee, which I still think that's a big line, man. When you've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett versus AJ Brown, Julio Jones, 4 alphas. We got Chris Carson versus Derrick Henry. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Both those quarterbacks know how to ball out, and it's one of those afternoon games, which is I love it when they really focus on these afternoon games because it's just. It's gonna be a chef kiss kind of game. So, that's all the narratives I want to talk about going into this week. Shall we get into some of our favorite flex plays of the week? Brendan, why don't you get us started?
My first flex play of the week is Mike Williams. Williams is officially ready to launch this year, and he's getting volume. Last week, he had 12 targets for 8 catches, 82 yards, and 1 touchdown with the 66% catch rate. That is elite. It's going to be that way this week because they're going to be in a major shootout with Dallas and Points Palooza. Count me in for Mike Williams.
Look, he was a player that we were talking about in the offseason. He was a player that we were trying to target. I mean, as draft season came to completion, he went up from about the 9th round to closer to the 7th round in terms of his ADP. But even at that 7th round value, as your wide receiver 3, I mean, that was a screaming value. So we had a fair amount of.
And what do we say in the offseason? If Lombardi is going to run the Saints offense, the X receiver for whatever team that is going to flourish, and that's Mike Williams.
Good morning, Jessica. Thanks for joining.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I love it. I think that's a great call. Like you said, he had a 75% snap share as well. Keenan Allen has 13 targets. Mike Williams had 12 targets. A lot of people are going to be playing Keenan Allen this week. What are your thoughts on Jared Cook this week? He had 8 targets last week, 5 receptions, 56 yards. Jared Cook was a player that – yeah, man. I got him as my tight end too in a lot of best ball this offseason.
Yeah,
just because look, he was fantastic, and that entire game is a game you're going to want to get a piece of. If you have any of those players, they're fringe flex plays, get them into your lineup. Should we be worried that Austin Eckler did not get a single target last week? Excuse me.
No, I think that was I think they knew they were going to rush the hell out of the ball, and I think they wanted to, like I said, they're easing all these players back in. This is the first 2-3 weeks of the season is almost like preseason now, and you're going to see a lot of teams not going full workload for some of their guys, and I think that's what's happening with Eckler. Eckler remember he popped up late on the injury report, and that's never really good, and he's always had issues with soft tissue issues, and so I'm not too worried about Eckler. I think that was just purely to salvage him and keep him healthy and just get his legs under him. And if they can win the game without having to give him crazy amounts of work, then they should do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple questions coming in from the chat. Guys, we're going to answer them. I'm going to give my flex play first. We already talked about Cole Beasley, so I'm going to cheap out and not go for Cole Beasley. Player this week that's kind of stinky. He's a little bit old, but when he's on the field, he still is kind of producing.
Okay.
Sammy Watkins this week. It's the Sunday night game against Kansas City. I'm obviously stealing one of your players. Last week, he led the Ravens in targets with 8 targets and 80% snap share. He still had 4 receptions for 96 yards. This is a player that it doesn't look good, but he gets the deep targets. And look, frankly, he's the best wide receiver on the field right now. Marquise Brown is not an alpha. He is a secondary option. He's got that big playability. He was the one who scored that touchdown on that insane scramble by Lamar Jackson last week. I think he eluded like 3 tackles to go and slide out to his right and then pass. It was beautiful. It really was fantastic. And I think that's just to go on a tangent here. It's one of the reasons people get so frustrated by Lamar Jackson because he shows it and then he has this magic and then he just looks like absolute dark trash.
Hey man, losing Orlando Brown to the Chiefs is a massive loss for that line.
Yeah, I mean they got a first round pick out of that, I think.
Yeah, they did, and they didn't have to pay him, and that was the biggest thing. That
was the reason why. They couldn't afford it. It's tough. It's frustrating. I don't know. So Sam Watkins, I like. We got a little bit of consensus there. The best part about I love the Sunday night games and the Monday night games. We always talk about the Monday night hammer. I love being able to have some exposure to that. But if you can't get the Monday nighter, Sunday night's pretty good too. Yeah, that's going to be a fantastic game. Are you ready for some really tough start sit questions here, Brandon?
Sure, go for it. Let's go.
All right, so we're talking with Brad. The first one here. Oh man, this is tough. Are you playing Kareem Hunt or Elijah Mitchell this week?
I'm playing Hunt.
You're playing Hunt. Yeah, Cleveland is going up against the Houston Texans. They're a 13-point favorite, man. That is insane. So I think Kareem Hunt.
And that's why.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to eat in this game for the Browns. And I think they're going to want to kind of escape and keep Chubb. They don't need to run Chubb for 250 yards this week. He could do it. Like Chubb could literally do that, but I think they're going to go, we're way ahead in the third quarter. Let's just keep rolling Hunt out there and milk this clock out. And Elijah Mitchell is going against the Eagles, and the Eagles are a tough run D. And I feel more comfortable with Hunt. He has more touchdown equity to me than Mitchell does right now. And I have a feeling Trey Sermon is going to ruin his life.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to talk about it because I'm not allowed to bring him up anymore on the show.
Jalen.
Is it Jalen season yet, brother?
Yes, sir.
It's got to be Jalen season.
I was so happy for you. I was literally watching that game. I'm just like, Jalen looks like Russell Wilson, bro. I was like, that dude looks so good. And I was thinking of you. I was like, Shane is probably just filled with such happiness because Jalen Hurts
just joy.
How about that call for Devontae Smith though last week, huh?
Oh boy, Devontae Smith looked good, man. Here's the thing. Okay, so first of all, I love the fact that their coach was wearing the Jalen Hurts fancy sunglasses shirt in the press conference this week. It's just validation, baby.
Jalen,
that's all it is.
And look.
Dude, he's got a tough type. I think the Niners are going to come in this week, and they are going to come in with business in mind.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tougher matchup this week. And look, I get that a lot of his passing yards came after the catch. That's what they got. They have explosive wide receivers. Dallas Goedert, I think, looked good, but Jalen Reagor, explosive after the catch.
This is going to be a Goddard week, guys. Ertz is hurt. Start
Ertz
Goddard.
He's going to play. The expectation is Hurts. He's going to play.
That's fine. He can play all he wants, but the dude is nicked up. I guarantee you money. This is going to be a Goddard feed weekend. And look what Hawkinson did to the Niners.
Oh, Hawkinson, man, that was a juicy.
How about that?
Play. All right, we got a few more questions. Let's go here. Okay,
go ahead.
We got a long one from Jessica. Corey Davis or James White on 1 point per reception. Crowder back and tough matchup for Davis, but projected more than White. Heard White might get more targets and rushes after fumble from Harris. All right. Okay. So we got a few things to unpack here. Can I talk a little bit about the Patriots situation?
Go for it.
Listen, Harris is their best running back on the team. He looked at last week, and that was a costly fumble. For those who didn't see it, they were driving. They would have been a touchdown to essentially solidify their lead. They fumbled it on like the third or fourth yard line, and then obviously Miami came back and they won that game. So that was tough. But I think Bill's going to go back to the well. Harris didn't really play after that. And look, James White is going to get touches, but I still love Corey Davis. Jamison Crowder, absolutely, he's back. He's going to be the slot target. But Corey Davis last week, man, he showed what we saw in the offseason.
Yeah, man. He's all right. He's better than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah. Look, he's a great flex play. I'm still playing Corey Davis just because of the usage. James White.
All day.
1 week he's going to be fantastic. The next week he's going to troll a little bit. This week, obviously, the Patriots are playing up against the Jets, which is kind of putrid, right? It's a 43-point game total. So that's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm still going Corey Davis over James White. It's close.
But volume over everything else. Volume is king.
Absolutely.
Opportunity. This is football. Touchdowns, you can't predict them. You just, volume is the greatest indicator of that, is to be able to have as many chances in the red zone as possible. And Corey Davis is going to give you that.
All right, Ned Gabe, pick 3, full PPR. I'm assuming this is Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Cooks. I'm assuming that's Amari Cooper. Okay, Amari Cooper's a lock and loaded. You're going Amari Cooper. Honestly, this one's pretty easy for me, right? So we're going Cooper. Deontay Johnson has still been Roethlisberger's favorite target. He had that insane touchdown reception last week. So to me, it's Cooper, Godwin, and Deontay Johnson. What do you think? I mean, I love Samuel, but I'm convinced Brandon Ayuk's going to be back this week. So look, that could be Deebo's best game of the year.
Of the year.
The year. Brandon Cooks, he's obviously the number 1 pass target in that offense, but you just have better options here. That's a pretty sick starting lineup though, Ned. So for me, it's Cooper, it's Godwin, it's Deontay Johnson.
I'm right there with you. That no reason to mess with that. Go for it. I get the
All
Debo. Right. The candy is there for Debo. I get it. And yeah, when it comes to that, I want to see that reconfirmed with Debo and that volume he got that week, last week. That needs, and the Niners is a team that likes to rotate. Who has the big game, and Kyle Shanahan likes to show how smart he is, and he just likes to he really likes to keep everybody off balance. And so go Deontay Johnson, and you'll be the same, all three.
Absolutely. Love it, Ned. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. All right, we have a few more. Shall we go through a few more?
Go for it. Yeah, why not?
Your boy last week, fantastic call last week. Jarvis Landry, or are you playing Cortland Sutton this week?
I'm going Sutton.
We just talked about the Browns. Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to be the number one target for Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep.
I kind of like that matchup against Jacksonville this week, man.
Yep.
I think it's going to be good.
Let's just lead that into my one of my flex plays was Cortland Sutton. And that is the main reason why. Judy is down, and Fant, he was nicked up last week as well. And it's obvious that Teddy B can run the offense, man. I think if you did you see what that video of that Von Miller talking to Teddy B after the game, and he was telling he walked up to Teddy B and he just looked at Teddy and told him, he's like, we haven't had that kind of leadership in this town since number 18 was here. And so that tells me this whole team has bought into Teddy B, and Sutton is the alpha, and I think he's going to be used as one. And the only thing that, Tim Patrick could, because he is that salty veteran, and he's fully healthy, and Sutton's, I could totally see maybe he gets a sneaky touchdown in there, but follow the volume, go Sutton. Landry, you can't go wrong either way. Landry, with Odell out already, that is a big deal. And with Anthony Schwartz, he got nicked up in this game. He had the most air yards of all wide receivers for the Browns. And that would, if Schwartz plays, that's a DFS play that I'm going to be using in a couple of lineups, because I think
I know we're not talking about dynasty here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're not talking about dynasty here, but if you guys were listening to us throughout the offseason, you would have a ton of Schwartz in the 5th round of your dynasty leagues, because he was a guy we were getting everywhere. Jessica, we love you. Thank you. Honestly, we really appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for listening and engaging with the show. It's a lot of fun. This is why we're here. Just a couple of guys talking about football, and we love your start sits. So bring them every week. We will be here. Yeah. All right. So Cortland Sutton was your next play. I love that play. I mean, let's call it what it is. I'm a Cortland Sutton truther.
Yep.
It's fantastic. So a player that it was kind of a muddied situation in general. I wouldn't say I love the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, but DJ Chark got 12 targets last week.
I know.
He's probably a fringy type player.
Yeah.
He only had 3 receptions, but he had 86 yards and a touchdown, 84% snap share. They only got Laviska had 70%. Marvin Jones had 91, excuse me. I'm locking in DJ Chark this week. I think he's going to continue to get the volume. And as much as I hate that Jacksonville offense as a whole, they're going
to be shootout. They're going to be behind every week. Every week they're going to be throwing the football like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So DJ Chark is my second flex play of the week. Honestly, like if you got Laviska or Marvin Jones, I'm okay probably starting any one of those players. I mean, they still had 9
all of them are
targets each. Yeah, and look, Trevor Lawrence, like he had over 300 pass yards in his rookie debut. Like you can't blame him for just horrible coaching in general. Horrible usage.
Can I rage about Urban Meyer for 5 seconds? You
have a full minute, brother.
This man decided to not use one of the best young running backs of last year that we've seen come out of nowhere. For no reason, he decides, I'm just not going to lean on. I'm just going to make my rookie quarterback throw 50 passes instead of giving the man that James Robinson could put that whole team on his back and carry him into the end zone if you just give him the rock. Like, I don't understand why especially when you're going against the Houston Texans, that you should be able to be in a decent game script with if you started with James Robinson from the beginning and lean into him. I don't understand it. Like Urban Meyer is one of the worst coaches I've already seen this year, and it's only been 1 week. And Trevor Lawrence might not make it out of the season if they don't fix that. Like Trevor Lawrence might get
with Joe Burrow last week,
dude. Trevor Lawrence might get destroyed by this man if they do not hand the ball off a little bit and give James Robinson his workload. Just give him his normal workload, and he will do work for you. I just can't believe that Urban Meyer decided I'm just going to just throw it 40 plus times.
Look,
it's insane.
Call it what it is. It's okay. So a few things to that, right? Obviously, yeah. I mean, when you're getting your ass beat by the Houston Texans, which is like a glorified college team in terms of like the level of talent on that team, there's definitely a problem. So you're saying that 8 touches isn't enough to validate James Robinson? He still had 6 targets, but he only had a total of 54 yards.
No,
it was not good.
If you want to win that game as a Jaguar against the Texans, James Robinson had to have 25 touches overall. Had to.
All right.
And that was the only way you're going to control that game. Only way.
So Brad, before I bring this question up, I'm just asking you, what are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to your life to have 2 Jacksonville Jaguars on your team?
Oh, no.
Who are you starting this week, Chark or James Robinson in your flex?
I just answered you, Chark. Yeah.
I'm going with Chark.
Until he proves it with James Robinson that the man is going to give him the football, they're going to be in negative game scripts and catching up the whole year. So Chark is the guy.
Carlos Hyde had 11 touches last week.
That's
every bit of wrong. It's just absolutely trashy.
I wanted to throw eggs at my TV. I could not believe that James Robinson did not get 120 and a touchdown last week in that matchup.
Yeah.
It just made 0 sense. It was like, I don't get it.
All right, give me your last flex play. I'll give you one more. Get the hell out of here.
My last flex play, is one of my favorite rookies of this class, and that is Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams,
I like that,
is going to hammer down on those Jags, and I think he's going to have this. Going to be a complete positive game script for the Broncos. I think they are going to let the rookie eat a little bit. The kid had the rookie had 14 carries last week and also one catch, but I think they're just easing him in. But for the first week, that's not a bad workload for a rookie running back. And I think in this game script, Javonte is going to have a lot of the work in the fourth quarter, and I think he's going to score in the fourth quarter.
Brad, you had a lot of players we're talking about this week. Are you playing Javonte over Chark? I'm not. I'm still playing Chark. It's close, though, right? It's close. It's worth considering. You're gonna play him?
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in Javonte this week. I think Javonte is going to be a stud this week. This is his coming out party.
Yeah, I mean, they had pretty much identical uses last week. The major difference was Melvin Gordon had that huge run.
That was it. That was it.
Out of it. That's it. It was 50-50.
Yep. And Javonte could do that just as easy.
Yeah, I had as one of my flex plays, either or Melvin Gordon or Javonte. If you have either one of those players,
play a running back against the Jags.
Yeah,
when you literally let David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, and Mark Ingram score on you, your defense is putrid. And you're talking about Javonte Williams, this kid, his comp coming out of college was Nick Chubb. This is going to be a good week for Javonte. I'm excited about him. Everybody was very upset about his first week. And, I actually thought the front seven of the Giants wasn't too bad. So I thought it would be a tougher rush defense to start your rookie career on. But against the Jags, Nick Fangio, I think Fangio is going to just let him eat, let him go and get that experience.
Yep. Yeah, here's the one thing that worries me a little bit. Before the games last week, I would have been 100% on board. We were telling our listeners and subscribers to draft Javonte whenever they could at value in drafts this year, but he wasn't somebody that we were saying you have to play last week.
Go trade.
I'm not as confident. Yeah, no, he's a guy you want to trade for, and he's a guy that if he's on your bench and you need to start him this week, I think he's a perfectly viable player to start for the reasons you outlined. Here's the thing. I'm not entirely confident that they're just going to be this powerhouse touchdown scoring behemoth, even when we're playing the Jags. And Noah Fant led the team with targets with 8 last week. We talked about Cortland Sutton. He's another week healthier, and Melvin Gordon is still there. So I just worry that unless he gets the touchdown, he's not going to pay off in your flex. Whereas I'm more confident in DJ Chark this week, just based on the fact that he's going to get the volume. It's close. It's really close. But hey, listen, I had both Melvin Gordon and Javonte as potential flex options this week. And Brad, we appreciate you coming again this week, brother. We're going to help you out every single week. Yeah. I have one last play, and it's kind of nasty. It's kind of stinky. For those of you who are on social media, I'm sure you saw that he led the league last week in total air yards with 142. He's technically the number 2 wide receiver option for a guy who we think is going to be angry again this week. He's just an angry man in general, Aaron Rodgers. Are you on board with the stinky cheese that is Marquez Valdes-Scantling this week? Ugh. What do you think?
No.
He's stinky cheese. He's got that big play upside. They're playing Monday Nighter. He's the hammer. They're going against Detroit, the team that we just talked about. It's nasty, but I like it. What do you think?
I'm not a fan. I don't know. I think it's gonna be like Devontae with 2 touchdowns, Aaron Jones with a touchdown, and Robert Tonyan has touchdown.
Can Davante Adams pull like a 19 targets like Aaron Waller last week?
Yeah,
legitimately.
Like he could legitimately do that. I think Aaron Rodgers is pissed off right now, and I could totally see that happening. And I don't know, Marquez. I've never been able to time that guy, so
he's tough. It's tough. Listen, if it's a hope and a prayer, right? I mean, this is the guy you're getting at like the end of your drafts. He's somebody that hopefully you at least hung on to, because as we start to enter bye weeks, he's a player that is going to be in flex consideration every single week, simply because he's Aaron Rodgers' second wide receiver. But it's a risky ask. I had Cole Beasley above it. I also had Javonte and Melvin Gordon above him, but you have to kind of get nasty. So we're going to end there with the flex plays. But Brandon, I just want one last little let's call it the bonus question for subscribers this week. Week 1 is always the most ferocious waiver wire week of the season, I would say. I mean, every week, as long as you're legitimately engaged, should be ferocious. But we know that week 1 is probably the biggest because we're finally validated based on storylines, usages. Sometimes we don't always get the results every week, but there's, we have an idea of where teams are pointing. Mm-hmm. Do you have a few players that you drafted at the end of your draft that did not perform? So maybe it's a rookie, maybe it's a sophomore, didn't perform last week, that you're comfortable. You didn't want to cut them this week, even though there was a juicy Eli Mitchell or similar type players this week. Who's the guy that you kept on your bench despite the fact you didn't want to cut them? I'll tell you a guy who I did cut, and I'll tell you a guy that I didn't cut if you want me to get started.
Go ahead.
Okay. So a guy that I did cut simply because sometimes you just have to make those decisions. Elijah Moore, man. I just couldn't keep him on my bench.
Oh! Yeah.
I had to cut him. Look, in one of my leagues, I only had 5 bench spots, and you have to make these tough decisions every single week. And Elijah Moore didn't get the usage. Jamison Crowder's back this week. Corey Davis is a clear number 1 option in that offense. Yep. And it's just he's going to be 2 boom or bust. So that's a player that I cut this week. A player that I didn't cut, despite that it was very challenging, was I kept Bryan Edwards on my bench because he did just enough last week, especially based on the fact that Derek Carr went to him to get that almost game-winning touchdown at the end in overtime, and he got him in overtime. Yeah, so Bryan Edwards was the guy I kept on my bench. Is there any guys that kind of jumped out at you that you were really reluctant to cut, or maybe you just had to, or a player you said, I want a little bit more time with this guy? Give me one or two.
I kept my guy Rondell, of course. Rondell Moore. Yeah. He was on the bubble with a few of my teams as well. But I picked up so off the waiver wire, I did exactly what you talked about with Sammy Watkins. So I picked up Sammy Watkins And I ended up dropping my handcuff that you predicted that I was going to do my first week. And I did. And you're right. So I ended up going and get myself some Sammy Watkins action. I also kept Terrace Marshall in other spots as well. I liked what I saw out of him. And I do see that offense I think that offense is going to start picking up steam as this year goes on. And I think Terrace is going to be one of those guys that's a rookie that he did just enough to me where he was running routes where he looked like he belonged, and I can totally see his role developing. And and then of course Jamal Williams is a guy that I had on my bench, and I'm going to keep him.
It's tough.
It's tough. I'm going to keep him. Because if Swift somehow gets nicked up, misses a few games, that guy is going to have so much value. It's going to be crazy.
Last week is so tough to gauge because of just the game script, the fact that they were behind the entire time. But Jamal Williams still had 9 targets. DeAndre Swift had 11. TJ Hawkins had 10. Yeah, it's just we were wondering, was there going to be a wide receiver that's going to produce? Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be the tight end. It's going to be Hawk. It's going to be Swift. It's going to be Williams, and it's going to be that's pretty much it. Quintez Cephas got the touchdown, but can we talk about this Carolina game? I know we were going to end it 5 minutes ago, but Christian McCaffrey, had 187 total scrimmage yards last week, and he didn't score a touchdown. He still balled the hell out. You're obviously starting Christian McCaffrey every single week, but he is the 101. Don't overthink it. Flex Matt, I'm putting you on blast for picking Alvin Kamara over Christian McCaffrey in one of your drafts. It's just to me it's a sin. It's a sin. So that's it, brother. It's going to be a hell of a week. How do the good people find you? How do they engage with you, Brendan? Where do they go to put you on tilt?
Oh man, come to me on Twitter with all your AG hate. I do not care. I will take you all on and
fuels you.
I'm going to win in the end. And I don't really give two shits what's going on in the first 3 weeks of the season. Let's see what happens by week 12 and week 10. That's the meat of the season. And I think all the cream will rise to the top. All those gadget players will get all their BS vulture stuff done early and let the big dogs eat later in the season. Find me on Twitter at BrandonDAdam19, and you can tell me why I'm wrong.
And look, it's just like I said. If you just enjoy putting people on tilt, just follow Brandon. Man. He's so easy to put on tilt. You just talk shit about Rondell Moore, or you talk shit about.
Hey, if on all the routes Rondell ran, he was targeted he was one of the highest targeted rookies per snap, per route ran last week. And the minute his snap share goes up, just wait, keep him, hold him, enjoy him. I actually love him this week against Minnesota and that terrible, terrible defense that they got going on over there. Look what Jamar Chase and look what T. Higgins did, and they can't even run a 4-3. Watch.
Yeah, there you go.
It's going to be good.
Jennifer, because we love you and because you're the most loyal listener that we have to answer her last question. So this is one of the teams that I helped Jennifer draft, and we faded the F out of quarterback, and she was starting Ben Roethlisberger last week. So this week, this is you're basically going to be until Trey Lance starts, which it could be a couple of weeks because Jimmy G was, he was competent last week. You're going to probably be streaming quarterbacks. So Ben Roethlisberger this week plays up against the Las Vegas Raiders, who we don't mind that matchup, but would you drop him or potentially stash for Tua? No. Sam Darnold? No. Andy Dalton? Definitely not. Jimmy G? Probably not. Mac Jones? No. Wentz? Maybe. Wentz is in consideration. Who doesn't he play this week? And he plays the Rams. No. I would say Wentz.
No.
Zach Wilson.
Just ride Big Ben. Ride Big Ben.
Benny, man.
He doesn't look washed or anything. That was just one of those good old slug it out, old school grinder games. And I was very surprised by that because I thought we would see more fireworks. But hey, man, early in the season, like I said, without preseason, you're gonna see some weird games early in the season, but the Steelers will get their rhythm. And I think Deontay and Chase Claypool are going to go berserk this week. And Najee Harris is going to nobody should be upset about Najee yet because Najee has an elite workload. So he's going to be great.
Literally 100% workload with Najee Harris this week. All right, Jennifer, thank you. You're the best. We appreciate your loyal support. For those of you who listen, who are still on, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for asking your questions and engaging with the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. We love to engage with our listeners. We're here to help you flex on your leagues this week and for this season. So, of course, at Brandon D. Adam 19 on Twitter, at the Flex Network 1 on Twitter. For Brandon, for Season Long Says, for Flex Matt, I am Flex Shane, and we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody.